Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good people. Yeah, you know what it is. Hard worker, scrappy, unfiltered, and sometimes unhinged football content. Hard to explain, but you know it when you see it. Doing it daily our way. I don't know what you're talking about right now. Redraft and Dynasty Fantasy Football, we got you covered. You know their defense is ranked like 31st in the NFL? NFL draft prospects and rookies? Now you know you in the right place for that.
Absolutely.
All right, then stop saying it. Then we're done. And prop bets with my man Jay Rich. Count that money, man. Now wipe the crust out of your eyes. Get you a cup of coffee. It's time to wake your ass up with RayGque. You honestly are making absolutely no sense and you sound silly as hell. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good people. Happy New Year. It is 2022, January 3rd. This is Wake Up with RayGque. We are back live in the building here on my YouTube channel at RayGque on YouTube. Thank you all for waking up this morning and tapping in with your boy. And of course, you know I got my man Jay Rich with me. Jay, how you doing this morning, baby?
I'm good, baby. I'm good. You know, we're back. New year, new show, new me.
New year, new me.
New
year, new me.
Loving it.
Yeah, man.
New year, new AB. I love it.
AB, we got new setups. You're in a new house. You got a new setup. I switched my stuff around. But it's exciting, man. You know, we talked a lot throughout, the past couple of weeks where we had some time off watching the NFL, watching the college football bowl games, and we went back and we were thinking about what we could do to make the show better, right? Like, let's improve it. Let's give the people what they want. Why do people tap in to the YouTube channel? Why do people rock with Destination Debbie? Why do people rock with myself, rock with you, rock with what we're putting down? It's because it's football, man. It's at the end of the day, it's football. It's NFL draft prospects. It's rookies. It's dynasty. It's fantasy football. Just being real. I don't think people really care if we talk about the NBA playoff race. I don't think they really tap into us for our horrible MVP baseball picks. Like, nobody comes to this channel to hear me talk about betting Vlad Guerrero Jr. for AL MVP. Nobody cares about that. What they care about, NFL draft, rookies, dynasty, fantasy football. And I think some people enjoy our prop bets. We like doing that. So that's what we're going to do moving forward on this show. It is 100% football. We're not unless my Los Angeles Lakers win an NBA title, you're not going to hear us talk about basketball. We're not going to talk about baseball. We're not going to talk about hockey. We're not going to talk about any football. Every single day that we're on this show, it's going to be so football related. Fantasy, dynasty, redraft, prop bets about football. We're going to bet on a bunch of stuff, especially when it comes to the 2022 NFL draft, right? We need to make sure that we're getting those bets in for the first wide receiver off of the board, the first player drafted, how many wide receivers taken in the first round, and then we'll stay tapped into everything that's happening in the NFL. So I think the new focus of the show and what we're going to be diving into, I just think it's going to be better for everybody, Jay, and I'm excited about it, man.
Yeah, you're right, man. And it's funny because I was telling you this morning, this is the first show we've done 90 episodes where we didn't have a bet lined up. So we're just completely changing the show, but it's going to be football all the time. And again, it's getting back to our roots, getting it back to what we know. I'm super excited because we've done so many prospect profiles, and everything that we do is only going to get bigger and better.
Yeah.
And there's going to be more of it. Every morning you can tap in with us, ask us questions live.
Yeah.
Or if you just want to listen back on the podcast or watch it back, you have that option too. Lots of RayGque content coming in 2022. Yeah. I'm excited for it.
And as Jay said, we will be doing prospect profiles live with you guys. So I see a lot of people in the comments talking about Breece Hall, RB1, Treylon Burks, this and that. We'll be talking about those prospects live on this show. Again, we still will be doing bets, prop bets, and things like that once the NFL season, once the NFL draft odds come out. We'll be doing that, but it's all football all the time. Dynasty, redraft, all that other good stuff. But we've got to get into some news. We're going to get into some news right after we go to the morning run. Let's go.
Wake up! This is the morning run.
Run, Forrest, run!
All right, Jay, take us away, baby.
All right, so the national championship game is set. We have Bama versus Georgia. We saw Georgia beat down Michigan, and we saw Alabama beat down Matt Bruning's Cincinnati Bearcats. I'm really sorry. I know you guys didn't want to see it. I'm pumped for the rematch. Georgia currently is favored. I think that line will move a little bit in Bama's direction, but the national championship game is set Monday, tap in with us. Thursday, we're going to preview the whole thing. Monday, we'll talk about it as well. Pumped for the Natty SEC rematch. Going to be a great game. On top of that, North Carolina quarterback Sam Howell declared for the NFL draft. He made a little video, center field at Tar Heel Stadium. Looked good, but we'll see what happens with Sam Howell. His stock's been going down for honestly the entire season pretty much. But he did declare, and like you actually informed me of, Ray, he is Senior Bowl eligible because he did graduate. So I am hoping we do see Sam Howell at the Senior Bowl. Maybe we can get a RayGque times Sam Howell collab interview. I don't know. You're going to be at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
I can hope for it, but we'll see. Sam Howell hopefully going to the Senior Bowl. I think he can do a lot for his draft stock. And on top of that, we saw some NFL teams clinch yesterday. One of the big ones was the Philadelphia Eagles. Even though they're actually in 6th place right now in the NFC, or 7th place right now in the NFC, they've actually clinched a playoff berth. So the only teams that can get in on the NFC side are the New Orleans Saints and the San Francisco 49ers. I'm assuming it means that San Fran has to lose, New Orleans has to win. But that's it for the NFC. On the AFC side, it's still a big race. The biggest game next week will be Sunday night. It's the Chargers versus the Raiders. Win and you're in. And then a couple other games sprinkling in there. But obviously the biggest game last night, Joe Burrow beating performance from Burrow, and we'll get into that a little bit. But on top of that, man, the Antonio Brown saga, it took another turn yesterday. In the middle of the game, third quarter, he just had a complete meltdown. You just see videos start popping up of Antonio Brown going crazy on the sidelines. Bruce Arians at the end of the game was like, Antonio Brown is no longer a Buck. I'm not talking about it after that. And that was that. AB, he's releasing rap songs. He's going crazy on the sidelines in the middle of a game, by the way. And, even you were talking to me saying there was more reports coming out about that today. All I saw was AB wilding with Uber drivers on Instagram. But, Ray, maybe you have a better update for me on
so just a couple of minutes before we went live, Ian Rappaport tweeted out that here's the situation with AB. So apparently, leading up all to the week, he hadn't practiced, ankle injury, he wasn't in practice, limited, all this other stuff. But apparently AB said he didn't feel good. Like, he didn't feel right. He was not 100%. And Bruce Arians said, get in the game. And Antonio Brown pretty much was like, I'm hurt, man. Like, I'm not getting in the game. BA says, get back in the game. AB says, I'm not going in. I'm hurt. And then you see what happens here. So it's a little like they always say that there's two sides to every story, and the truth lies somewhere in between those truths. I've never seen anything like this ever in football. And I've been a part of some wild games myself. Personally, I've seen some wild stuff happen at football games, at sporting events, but I've never seen, literally as AB's doing this, and we're watching, those of y'all that aren't watching, he's walking off, he's got his shirt off, towel in the back, and he's walking off the field. The Bucs are on the field. They're on the field playing a game, and here he is in the end zone, waving his hands up, chunking up the deuce, saying bye, running off the field. He quit. He was done. I've never seen this from a player. And it's funny, man, because as you watch that clip, man, I want to tell you guys where AB realized it was over. So Mike Evans trying to calm him down. Right now, he's still a Buck. He's still a Buck. And at this point, he commits to the theatrics. And right about now, he realizes it's a wrap, so he's going full drama mode. At this point, there's no comeback, put your pads back on, and you're going in the game. At this point, he was no longer a Buck right here. Now it's just commit to the drama. I'm going to chunk my undershirt, and it doesn't make it to the stands. I'm throwing my gloves. That didn't make it to the stands. It's the wildest thing I've ever seen, Jay, but apparently that was the situation that was happening with AB. I'm sure he's going to be the hot topic across all major sports media outlets today, man.
Yeah, he's have to be. How could he not? AB, again, the antics, sometimes the trouble's just not worth it. BA obviously realized that. He's had his second, third, fourth, fifth chances. Hall of Fame talent. Hall of Fame head case on top of that. Now, I wanted to update you, Ray, on our updated Offensive Rookie of the Year odds because, of course, why can't they just stay the same? Mac Jones won 9 games this year, but when Jamar Chase goes off for 265 yards and 3 touchdowns, now all of a sudden he's the favorite. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Jamar Chase going to win -225, Mac Jones +175. Mac Jones this week plays the Dolphins. Unless he goes off for 500 yards and 7 touchdowns, I don't really see a case where he wins Rookie of the Year. Now, You, unfortunately, my friend, are not going to be happy with this MVP news. Aaron Rodgers, minus 400 to win MVP. Your boy, Tom Brady, your preseason pick, plus 500. And Joe Burrow, 10-1 to win MVP, which to me is a little bit shocking because while I love Burrow, I think he's having an amazing season. I didn't think he'd be top 3 in MVP voting. So that's interesting. Plus 1,000, he's not going to win, but Rodgers, it's got to be him. They have the number 1 seed. They're locked up. He's not playing next week. There's no way. Everyone else, though, they got to play.
Yeah. I mean, Offensive Rookie of the Year, listen, it normally goes to a quarterback, and we've talked about this all season. This award normally goes to a quarterback. We saw Justin Jefferson break the receiving yard record last year. Jamar Chase has shattered that this year. Normally, and it still went to Justin Herbert. Mac Jones was in prime position. Going into this game, I believe he was minus 500, minus 350 to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, and it literally was a 400-point swing overnight. When you catch 11 passes for 260, what do you have, 266, 226? How many did he have? He had 266 and 3. 266 and 3. I mean, it's a wrap. He's about to finish the season with damn near 1,600 receiving yards. He's minus 225. Mac Jones plus 175. I'll just say this. I was in the building for most of the season. Like, until Jamar Chase went berserk yesterday, I had a good shot with my Mac Jones pick. I put that in. And for everybody out there, I had the courage and my damn conviction. I bet Mac Jones in May. In May, I put a unit on Mac Jones to win Offensive Rookie of the Year before Cam Newton was released because of the narrative, right? I was like, he's going to be on a team that's going to the playoffs. He's got a good situation around him. It normally goes to a quarterback. Justin Fields has to deal with the Andy Dalton, Matt Nagy situation. Trevor Lawrence had to deal with Urban Meyer. Trey Lance wasn't going to start. So the process was right. The result is not going to end up the way that I wanted it to for neither my MVP pick in Tom Brady or Offensive Rookie of the Year, but that's okay. I am going to hit Defensive Rookie of the Year. I got that in the bag. And I told you before we got out of here in December, putting some money on Joe Burrow for Comeback Player of the Year seemed like a smart bet. But unfortunately, it still looks like Dak Prescott is, and I am Dallas Cowboys through and through, through and through. Joe Burrow, what he's done, I asked the question, man, would you rather have in Dynasty Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow? And everybody's just like, it's easy, it's Herbert. I don't think it's that close of a call, man, but neither here nor there. Finish us out with the news, man.
Yeah, so the last piece of news is Monday Night Football tonight. It's Ben Roethlisberger in his last game at Heinz Field. So we'll see what happens with that. I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are really going to want to play this game. And I mentioned to you, I think TJ Watt tonight can lock up that Defensive Player of the Year. I love Micah Parsons, but unfortunately he wasn't able to get to Kyler Murray. Now we have TJ Watt in primetime on Monday Night Football. It will be all about Ben, but TJ Watt on the other side of that defense, if he's able to play and go in this game, he gets a couple sacks on Baker Mayfield. We'll see. I think that would put him at like 17, 18 sacks on the year. I think TJ Watt could lock up Defensive Player of the Year. But we'll see what happens with the Steelers, man. Ben, Swan Song, gotta watch it. Don't want to watch it because he's probably not going to play overly well. But maybe for his last game, he can put it together for the fans in Pittsburgh. They can cheer him on. They can get a dub over Cleveland.
Yeah, man. This is supposed to be Ben's last game at Heinz Field. Great career. Hall of Famer is going to be in the Hall. Good for Ben. Good for us that we don't have to watch Ben struggle to throw passes and get beat up behind that Pittsburgh offensive line much more. But Hall of Fame career. Shout out to Ben Roethlisberger. But this is what we're not going to shout out. Kirk Herbstreit and college football. So for those of you who may have missed the news, right? You were just busy. It's New Year's Day, New Year's Eve. I understand. You had stuff to do, places to kick it, people to go see. But ESPN, one of his head college football analysts, Kirk Herbstreit, all right, says, I don't know if changing and expanding the playoffs is going to change anything. I really don't. I think this era of player just doesn't love football. And these were Kirk Herbstreit's comments in regards to top players sitting out bowl games in order to prepare for the NFL draft. This is what Mr. Herbstreit says. And a part of me, I try to look at both sides of the coin, right? Herbstreit comes from the old school era where you just play for the love of the game. You play for school pride. You play because you love the game of football. But ultimately, man, this is, whether people want to admit it or not, when you're a high-level collegiate athlete, whether that's, women's college basketball, college football, it's a business decision. You go to Alabama, not because you want to live in Tuscaloosa, not because that's the place to be, not because it's a great party town. If you're a high-level football player and you commit to Alabama, that is a business decision. You are going to Alabama because that is a feeder pipeline to the NFL. You're going to USC because you want to play in Lincoln Riley's offense and you want a chance to play at the next level. You're not going there. This is how much school pride. I want y'all to understand something. And I know this is a very minute detail. When you're watching Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football and they're going through the list of the players and they're going through the roster and it's like Tom Brady, Michigan, and then they go to the running back, Leonard Fournette, such and such high school, such and such prep, such and such. Some of these players, and I'm telling you because I know this for a fact, they have no love for the college that they went to. They literally, that was just a breeding and a feeding ground to get them to the next level. So when you see analysts come out and say stuff like this, like it has nothing to do about loving the game of football. It's about securing your future. That way you have a future at the next level. And this was so evident this past weekend when, for most of us, our quarterback won. Our QB won, and we got plenty of time to argue one. But right now, the consensus quarterback one in the 2022 NFL Draft is Matt Corral, quarterback at Ole Miss. He's the consensus QB one at this point in time. He goes out there and he plays a meaningless Sugar Bowl game against Baylor and injures his leg to whatever degree it was. He's on crutches. He can't put weight on it. And let me ask you this, Jay. If I ask you about Baylor won that game, but if I ask you about that game, what's the one thing that you remember? When you think about Baylor versus Ole Miss, what pops into your head first?
It's got to be Matt Corral.
It's Matt Corral.
He's got the high ankle sprain.
It's Matt Corral on the crutches. You don't remember the fact that Abram Smith, converted linebacker, running back, had 170 rushing yards. You don't remember the fact that they had 10, 11 sacks in that game. You don't think about any of that stuff. The only thing you think about when you think of the Baylor versus Ole Miss game is Matt Corral got injured. Now, you said high ankle sprain. I hadn't seen an official report for what the injury actually was. And is this injury going to cost him first-round draft capital in the 2022 NFL Draft? I don't believe so. I don't think this injury is going to knock him out of the first round. And for all we know, he could be fine and ready to go by March. But we have seen in years past this completely just ruin high-level NFL draft prospect stock. Jalen Smith in the game versus Ohio State, when Jalen Smith, former Notre Dame linebacker, goes out there and literally just mangles his knee, falls to the second round. Now, he still got drafted in the second round. He still got a second contract, but Jalen Smith was poised to be a top 5 pick in that draft class. I believe 2016 was the draft class. Not only did it impact his draft stock and that immediate monetary gain that he could have received, he was never the same player. He had the drop foot issue. Jalen Smith was never the same. So when Herbstreit is saying stuff like this, man, listen, you've got to, you have to protect your bag and do what you need to do in order to secure your future. So I'm not critical, and I honestly think we are close to the day where we see college players pull a Jamar Chase and completely opt out of their final season, especially if they put enough on tape that they don't have to play. Like when we're looking ahead to 2023, Texas running back Bijan Robinson. I don't think Bijan Robinson has to play another snap, and he's still going to be the first or second running back off of the board in 2023. Bryce Young, we know he's going to play, but let's just say hypothetically, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Jaxon Smith-Njigba, and we're going to get to JSN. Say they don't play another snap of college. All three of those guys are going to be first-round picks. You know, a lot of people thought Jamar Chase was going to forget how to play football. He sat out 2020. Sat out, trained, prepared, honed his craft for the NFL, and now he's honestly probably is Ja'Marr Chase the best young wide receiver in football? It's got to be him or Justin Jefferson for wide receiver one. When you're talking dynasty fantasy football, it's him or Justin Jefferson. And to be honest with you, if you had to like bank on the situation, I just trust Joe Burrow more than I do Kirk Cousins. Tyreek Hill's still there. Devontae Adams, sure. We can make that argument. Dynasty, I don't think there's a question. It's Ja'Marr Chase. You want him opposed to Devontae Adams or Tyreek Hill. Maybe there's an argument with Justin Jefferson. The point is, he didn't forget how to play football. Kenneth Gainwell, he's not taking over the backfield in Philadelphia like we thought, or maybe we had hopes that he can carve out more of a third down role, but he's still playing. Micah Parsons is damn near going to win Defensive Player of the Year. He sat out his entire 2020 season. These players are not going to forget how to play football. So, listen, man, we never thought in a million years that we'd see a top prospect opt out of Alabama, LSU, Notre Dame, and go to an HBCU. And you can say whatever you want. Oh, he got 7 figures to go to Jackson State. Travis Hunter got all this money. He's going to Jackson State. Travis Hunter could have gone to any college in America. And let me tell you something. $1 million at Jackson State, let's just say he got half of that to go to Alabama, he'd more than make up for it playing at Alabama. So we never thought in a million years we'd see a prospect choose an HBCU. I think we're real close, man, to the day where these players, after they put stuff on wax for 2 years, they say, I'm out, man. I'm not doing it. Not only am I not playing in the bowl game this year, I'm going to prepare and train for the NFL next season and across different sports. And I know it's a different sport. I know it's not an apples to apples comparison, but LaMelo Ball, like you saw, there are other avenues for these players to take in order to prepare and hone their skills for the next level. So as we look at Matt Corral, and again, I don't know. You say high ankle sprain. I'm seeing there's potential for this, potential for that. I'm just hoping Matt Corral's injury does not, significantly impact his draft stock. But I just am wholeheartedly disagreeing with Kirk Herbstreit in this notion that you have to play to show the love of your game, your school pride, because it's not about that at the end of the day, man. Like, this is a business decision for all of these guys, and they need to do what's in the best interest of them as players. Now, do you agree? Am I off, Jay? Like, am I off at all? And turn your volume up. The people are saying your volume is low. Turn your damn volume up. Maybe it's me. Maybe I need to turn it up for you. All right, go ahead.
No, the problem is that you're always yelling, so you're overtaking my volume. But okay. the more important thing that you mentioned, right? Herbstreit comments, they are what they are. And what people need to understand too, that I think is a very valid point. ESPN aired 20 of the 22 bowl games. Kirk Herbstreit, I believe, gets paid $2 million a year. So for him to say that, it's kind of like it's the self-interest as well of ESPN and the brand. They want to have these good players play. When you see Michigan State versus Pitt, but you see Kenny Pickett and Kenneth Walker aren't playing, are you really tuning into that game? Casual fan probably isn't. The NFL draft fan probably isn't, and that hurts ESPN. But it's not about that. They need to do what's in the best interest of them. Now, where I sort of disagree with certain people is that Matt Corral chose to play. Yes, he got hurt. That's unfortunate. But, that was ultimately his choice to play. And to your point about the injury, I don't think it will hurt him that much. The only thing that it may hurt is his ability with some of those off-platform throws we keep seeing at pro days. He should be fine. High ankle sprains is about a 6-week injury recovery time. So it'll just be more the mobility factor in a combine, in a pro day that could maybe hurt him. But otherwise, the arm, it's secured, baby. So he's going to be all right.
Are you sure is it a high ankle sprain? Is that I hadn't seen it, so I didn't know. Is that the injury?
So that's what I saw reported. I believe it was Pro Football Doc said that. But as well, like when you see players on crutches, it's usually an ankle injury. And I don't believe he was in a boot at any point throughout the night, which is a good sign, right? So when you don't see a player in a boot, that means it's probably not an upper leg injury where you're going towards the knee, the hamstring, right? So usually those small injuries, the ankle injuries, are just crutches. You walk it off. You take your time off. We've seen it plenty of times. But again, about 6 to 8 weeks would probably be full recovery, good to go for Corral. But again, he's a quarterback, so he has to just stand there and deliver the ball.
Yeah, and again, I don't think this is what it's going to affect, because there is – I talked about Matt Corral being the consensus, but you still have Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, Sam Howell jockeying for QB1. And I've been saying it all along. I am not going to be shocked when the first quarterback – his name called is Kenny Pickett. The first quarterback off of the board, 2022 NFL draft in 4 months, Kenny Pickett, quarterback from Pitt. Like, I do I think there's a very strong possibility he's the top guy off of the board. Maybe it impacts his draft slot because he's not going to get to compete against those guys. He may not be 100% for those off-platform throws during his pro day. We'll see how it goes. But ultimately, I think we are headed down a path of some of these players saying, we're done. I'm not going to play this season, and we'll see how that plays out moving forward. Now, your point about the bowl games this year, I was this close to tweeting out, this has been one of the most uninspiring bowl seasons that I can remember. Like, I just have not been as dialed into this bowl season as possible. And I do think a big part of that is because of the players opting out, which I'm fine with. Like, I don't sit at home and cry and cuss and bitch and moan and complain because Kenneth Walker's not playing, because Kenny Pickett's not playing, because Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave aren't on the field for Ohio. I just don't watch it. Like, if I don't want to see those teams play without their stars, I just don't watch it. I just find something else. But we have had some really good performances that I think are going to start to factor into our dynasty mind frame going into rookie draft season. And I think the first person in this team played December 18th, I believe. And I think he's going to be the most divisive quarterback and one of the most divisive players in the 2022 NFL Draft, and I'm talking about Liberty quarterback Malik Willis. Malik Willis versus Eastern Michigan, he went nuts, man. He had 58 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground, 231 passing yards, and I think 2 or 3 touchdowns through the air. He looked incredible. Malik Willis is going to be at the Senior Bowl. Again, smaller school prospect from Liberty. There's a lot of comparisons to a lot of the mobile dual threat quarterbacks that we've seen in the past. Lamar Jackson types, the Kyler Murrays, the Michael Vicks. Malik Willis sort of gets lumped into that category. I see the upside. I see the upside and I see the talent with a Malik Willis. And if you hit on Malik Willis, and Malik Willis gets drafted to the Carolina Panthers, to the Denver Broncos, to the Pittsburgh Steelers, New Orleans Saints, say he falls in a really good landing spot, he gets the first round draft capital, and he hits, he's going to hit in a major way. If he doesn't, I think you're going to know real quick that Malik Willis probably isn't the guy. And we're seeing this with the 2021 quarterbacks. A lot of them have needed time to develop. We saw Trey Lance start out rocky yesterday, turned it on late, got the win for San Francisco, made some big throws. You saw the mobility with his legs. Zach Wilson, quarterback of the Jets, was god-awful, first half of the year. He's turned it on, and he looks pretty damn good. When you're talking about the QBs from the 2021 class, I think the best two overall, by and large, from start to finish, have been Mac Jones and Zach Wilson. Trevor Lawrence, the generational talent, I'm just praying and hoping that the Jacksonville Jaguars organization has not broken Trevor Lawrence, because he has been probably the biggest letdown of the prospects from the 2021 class this past season. Has been Trevor Lawrence. I said it, multiple people said it, best quarterback prospect since Luck, best since Elway, best of all time. And honestly, it looks like we're staring at Josh Rosen. Now, part of that is Urban Meyer, part of that may be Trevor Lawrence, but we're seeing these quarterbacks struggle, and that's my thing with Malik Willis. I do not think you want Malik Willis coming in from day one and starting for your NFL franchise. And I don't think for fantasy football purposes, we should be anticipating Malik Willis to come in and give us instant production. If you take Malik Willis in the first round of your rookie drafts, just be prepared. You're probably going to have to sit on that for a minute, right? He's going to be a bitch. He's not going to give you any points. I do not think you want Malik Willis coming in from day one and starting for you, but he had a fantastic quarterback performance in his bowl game versus Eastern Michigan, and he's got a big opportunity in Mobile, Alabama later this month because Carson Strong is there. Kenny Pickett is there. We're waiting to see if Sam Howell goes. Bailey Zappe's going to be at the Senior Bowl. Desmond Ridder, all the top quarterback prospects outside of Matt Corral, and right now still waiting on Sam Howell, are going to be in Mobile. So I think that's going to be a massive opportunity for all those quarterbacks there, but big time for Malik Willis. We talked about Sam Howell declaring for the 2022 NFL Draft. We'll see if he shows up to the Senior Bowl to compete with his counterparts in Mobile. Desmond Ridder versus Alabama. Ridder needed to show something. I did not think Cincinnati was going to beat Alabama. I didn't want to see Cincinnati play Alabama, and that game was boring as hell for the most part. But Desmond Ridder needed to show something. And I said, if he showed just a little hint of high upside potential, just something, then he's going to be solidified as a first-round quarterback. And outside of one throw down the middle, like I think it was in the third quarter, I didn't see much out of Desmond Ridder. Now, he did put a nice ball on Jerome Ford out of the backfield down the sideline that was dropped. It was a beautiful pass by Desmond Ridder, but I'm just not seeing difference maker at the NFL level. It just looks like a backup quarterback to me. So Desmond Ridder went 17 for 32, 144 yards, 10 carries, -6 yards versus Alabama. We saw the young 2023 prospect Bryce Young. He didn't have a great game either. 181 yards, 3 touchdowns. So from the quarterbacks that matter for fantasy football that participated this bowl game, no Kenny Pickett, no Carson Strong. Sam Howell, meh. Malik Willis, awesome. Desmond Ridder, not very good. So there's no clarity. Matt Corral, hurt. So there's still no clarity. As we head into the NFL draft season, I'm just going to ask everybody, I promise you, you just do not want to debate. It's just going to be a revolving door of who's quarterback one in the 2022 class. I keep saying it. If they get drafted in the first round, they're going to matter, and you're going to want them in fantasy. If they don't, take a dart throw and see what happens. Now, the big guy, Brian Robinson Jr., B-Rob. B-Rob went nuts. B-Rob had the game of his career. He was at Alabama, played 52 games at Alabama before he got his first career start this season, and he was in a timeshare with Jace McClellan to start the season. Jace McClellan goes down with a knee injury. It's the B-Rob show, and he makes the most of his opportunity. He had, 26 carries, 204 yards. It was a bowl game record. He's setting records, and you know what this feels like, right, Jay? You know this feels like Trey Sermon of last year, where Trey Sermon, the Northwestern game, the Big Ten title game, just going nuts. Trey Sermon rushing for 200-300 yards a game, gets drafted in the third round. Everybody's excited about Trey Sermon, and he was usurped very quickly by the 6th-round pick Elijah Mitchell out of Louisiana. Brian Robinson Jr., I'm seeing people on Twitter talking about B-Rob as RB3 in the class, top 5 running back. This is the classic case of analysts out there who do not watch a lick of football, who just tapped in because there was nothing else to do on New Year's Eve. They saw Brian Robinson, they see the Alabama jersey, and they slot him in as a top running back. All Alabama running backs are not created equal. There's a big difference between Bo Scarborough and Josh Jacobs, between Damian Harris and Najee Harris. And there's a hell of a lot of difference between Brian Robinson and everybody else that came before him. Do you know when Brian Robinson was recruited to Alabama, President Trump was just getting turned up in his presidency? Like, he's been at Alabama since 2017. 2017. Brian Robinson has been at Alabama, and here in the year 2022, he's just now getting it going for Alabama. 2020, I'm exaggerating with 2022, but you get what I'm saying, man. Like, B-Rob, I'm telling y'all, let your league mates have that landmine. You know, if he's a running back, so we're seeing all types of running backs get burned in the NFL because the position, they get banged up, but in no way, shape, or form should Brian Robinson be ranked as a top 3, top 4 running back in the 2022 NFL draft class. That's asinine, man. It's crazy to see that shit getting spewed right now.
Yeah, and you tweeted it out, right? Let the other league mates take that landmine. And the crazy thing is we're going to see him because even against Georgia, he could have a 60, 70-yard game, decent. But like you said, he's a plotter. He's going to take those carries, he's going to tote the rock, go up the middle, doesn't bounce it outside, 5th-year senior. I'm pretty sure Jonathan Taylor in his freshman season had more yards than Brian Robinson had in his entire career. And they were recruited, I believe, in the same recruiting class. Because Jonathan Taylor had almost 2,000 yards in his first season, and I believe that's about how many yards B-Rob has. Now, B-Rob does have another game under his belt, so he's still got a chance to pass JT's freshman season. But, I will not be drafting any B-Rob. The only spot that he would probably look half decent would be as Derrick Henry's backup in Tennessee, or somehow if he ended up in a New England uniform. Other than that, I don't really see a fit that makes sense for B-Rob. The end of going to a pass-happy league, I don't even see him catch passes. So at that point, where's his value outside of being a plotter?
Here's my thing, Joe. This is my thing, and I'm answering this question, right? What if he goes in the second round? If he gets drafted day 2 in the second round in the NFL draft, then he's going to listen. I'm just telling you, I'd rather pass. I'd rather let my league mate take that landmine opposed to me invest. Like, that's just me personally. I don't think he's a very good running back, but I've been wrong before. I said that about Ramondre Stevenson last year. He came out to the Senior Bowl. He was more explosive than we thought, and you saw very early during the preseason that Ramondre Stevenson was going to be a thing. I'm just not. It's taken him 5 years to get his opportunity, and part of that can be commended. He stuck around for 5 years, and he finally got to get it going. But if Jace McClellan hadn't been hurt, if was a fifth, we'd all be drunk first and foremost. But I'm just not there with Brian Robinson Jr., and I think this is the type of stuff that gets people to overreact, right? When you see these type of performances from these players, it starts going a little bit too left field, and I think we're already reaching that with Brian Robinson. Now, we'll see how he does against Georgia. This game versus Georgia, Natty is set. Georgia right now, I think, is favored by 3 in that matchup. If B-Rob can continue that momentum versus Georgia, it's going to help his draft stock. I do think he is going to Mobile for the Senior Bowl, but I just don't see enough explosiveness. I don't see the wiggle. He's a hammer. He is what he is. He's a bruising hammer. For fantasy purposes, I really don't want that, but at cost, I have no problem taking Brian Robinson. What I'm just telling y'all, don't slot him as a top 3 back in this class. The top 3 backs are Breece Hall, Isaiah Spiller, and Kenneth Walker. In some order, we'll debate that later on, but those are your top 3 backs in the 2022 NFL draft class. And I'm seeing some people, I don't like Robinson, but I'm a sucker for draft capital. I feel you. And if the draft capital is there, you have every right to take that shot. You have every right. Just don't be upset when he is Trey Sermon 2.0. Now, other players who performed well in the bowl game, Jamison Williams, not a big game, 7 receptions, 62 yards. A lot of people have him as wide receiver 1 in the 2022 class. We'll see how he does this week versus Georgia. He was eliminated from one of those. I think the Auburn game, he got kicked out, comes back, balls against Georgia in the SEC title game. We'll see how he does in the national championship game. But a wide receiver that's really rising for me, Jay, this dude right here, Wan'Dale Robinson out of Kentucky. Monster performance in his bowl game. I don't know if he's declared yet. I think there was a lot of talk about him coming back for his senior season with Will Levis, the quarterback out of Kentucky, who's already said he's coming back for the 2022 season. And I think Will Levis is going to position himself to be a first-round pick in 2023. But Wan'Dale Robinson is incredible. And as Big Rig just said in the comments, just cook Iowa, who's a great defense. And I think that is a very good point to make. Not a good defense. Iowa is a great defense. Now, I do think they were down one of their top safeties, but it wouldn't have mattered. Wan'Dale Robinson is special. He is, he is what I think I wanted a combination of Laviska Shenault and Rondale Moore to be. Because at Nebraska, 2 years at Nebraska, he was like part-time running back, part-time wide receiver, goes to Kentucky, and it's not just his tape. All the analytical numbers are just through the roof for Wan'Dale Robinson this season. And the difference between him and a Rondale Moore, Rondale is 5'7", 180. Wan'Dale Robinson listed at 5'11", 190. So he's in that Odell Beckham type build, which means you can play X, you can play the Z, you can play the outside receiver role at the next level, where Rondale Moore can't do that. Like, Rondale's been a healthy scratch, to my knowledge, the past couple of weeks in the NFL season. Wan'Dale Robinson, I have him pretty damn high in my personal rankings right now. I've got Wan'Dale as, I believe, wide receiver 5 or 6 in the 2022 class. And if he declares he's going to test well during his pro day and at the combine, and he's a player that I think he's a sneaky candidate to get back in first-round draft capital, depending on his size and how he tests. But I think he's a lock for round 2 draft capital. And for a wide receiver, that's going to be money. Now, this wide receiver class is deep, so lock up your running backs in rookie drafts, and we got plenty. We're gonna go through a ton of mocks, people. Trust me, we're gonna have you covered. But Wan'Dale Robinson is somebody that I am loving what I'm seeing from Wan'Dale Robinson, and I think he is an impact player from day one once he gets drafted at the next level. You just see him out there. You see the speed. You see the explosiveness. He provides that special teams ability. Not quite Jalen Waddle level of athlete, I believe, but damn good physical, and he's got the size. So I'm loving what I'm seeing out of Wan'Dale Robinson. Also, when you're talking about running backs from this bowl season, the performances that matter, I tweeted it out. I wanted to see Hassan Haskins, and I wanted to see this player, James Cook. James Cook, listen, he's not going to be an every down hammer. And yes, this is the younger brother of Dalvin Cook. He waited his turn at Georgia. But the thing about Georgia, Kirby Smart has already come out and said multiple times, regardless if we have Nick Chubb, Sony Michel, DeAndre Swift, Zamir White, no running back is going to demand the primary, touch count in our offense. We're going to rotate backs. We're going to keep you fresh for the NFL. But you see the talent that James Cook has, right? 6 carries, 32 yards, 4 receptions, 112 yards, and a touchdown. He's a beast. He is a satellite plus type back. He's a monster. I love what I'm seeing out of James Cook, and everyone keeps asking me, who is he at the next level? I'm not one for early comps. I just don't like doing that, and I haven't looked at James Cook enough in depth to make a concrete comparison, but he's in that Austin Eckler type role. Like, Eckler is not going to command 300 carries out of the backfield, but that's not where his value lies in fantasy. It's the fact that Austin Eckler can catch 10 passes in a game, that he can command 10 targets in a weekly game and then carry the ball, 15, 16, 17 times. And Eckler, to his credit, has built his body up to where he can actually handle that workload. But I think James Cook is going to be a massive riser throughout this process. Where does he get drafted? I don't know. Late day 2 is what I'm thinking right now. Maybe if I had to just pick draft capital for James Cook, I'm thinking right now at this moment, Jay, probably a late 3rd, looking at an early 4th round pick for James Cook. But throughout this process, in his skill set, and I'm just telling you, the name cachet of being Dalvin Cook's little brother could propel him into day 2. And if James Cook gets day 2 draft capital, you talked about Brian Robinson being a complimentary back. Think about James Cook in Tennessee. Think about James Cook in Tennessee, because we know Derrick Henry in 2-minute drills, he's never on the field. When they got to throw the ball, he's not on the field. You put him in that offense where you've got a massive hammer like Derrick Henry, and then James Cook comes in to spell him. He can get his 5 to 6 targets a game. That was the first name that popped up, but it sounds like a good fit for him to be sort of a complimentary 1B back. He's the Tony Pollard to Ezekiel Elliott. He could be that to a Derrick Henry in the NFL. I'm just telling you, watch James Cook. I think he's going to be a massive riser during the 2022 NFL draft process. And last but not least, this player is not eligible in 2022. He's not eligible in 2022, but we got to talk about it because he put up QB numbers at the wide receiver position. If I said your quarterback went 15 for 16, 347 yards and 3 touchdowns, that's a great quarterback performance, Jay. Wouldn't you agree? Like, quarterback was efficient.
That would be disgusting.
That's Joe Burrow. That's Joe Burrow. That's Joe Burrow right there. That's Joe Burrow. No. This was Ohio State sophomore Jaxon Smith-Njigba. And I just have to say this. I love JSN because he literally played 2 minutes down the street from where we live. It's like 5 minutes. 5 minutes in Rockwall, Texas, down the street. Jaxon Smith-Njigba played football. And I've been hearing about this kid for the past 3 years. I've actually got some funny stories about JSN. I will not tell on this show, but met him at Walmart one night. And you got to listen to the podcast for that. But it's a pretty cool story about JSN. But 300, and I still can't wrap my mind around this performance. And then Jamar Chase goes out there and tries to get 3 bills in the NFL. JSN, he's not eligible until 2023, but the size, the speed, he set the single season record for, I believe, receptions, yards, touchdowns for Ohio State this year. And that's with Garrett Wilson, that's with Chris Olave, that's with Jeremy Rucker, that's with Travion Henderson. Jaxon Smith-Njigba right now is looking like the wide receiver 1 in 2023. I know a lot of us have had Kayshon Boutte at wide receiver 1. Matt Bruning, the Campus to Canton guy, one of the co-founders of Campus to Canton. He and I still have Kayshon Boutte as wide receiver 1. But JSN is coming, and he's coming quick. And I think that he and CJ Stroud are locks to be high NFL draft picks in 2023. We didn't even talk about CJ Stroud. He was magnificent in this matchup too. And the fact that they're only going to get better. Marvin Harrison Jr. is there. Travion Henderson comes back. If Ohio State can find some defense, just a little bit of defense, because Utah was on their ass early in that game, put money on CJ Stroud to win the Heisman Trophy. Jaxon Smith-Njigba is your top-rated wide receiver in 2023. And CJ Stroud, a lot of people are just saying Bryce Young, QB1 in 2023. I think there's a debate. I could see CJ Stroud he's a bigger body. I think his arm is just as good. He probably has a bigger arm than Bryce Young, I believe. Bryce Young doesn't really get praised for a cannon of an arm. It's the accuracy, it's the poise, it's the mental processing. CJ Stroud has all the makings of a QB1 in 2023. And if your NFL team is too fearful to take a Malik Willis or Sam Howell or Carson Strong in 2022, in 2023, you have to get one of Bryce Young, CJ Stroud. And I'm going to put my stamp on this player early now, just like I did Mac Jones last season. I think Will Levis is positioning himself to be QB3 off of the board. He's got a big arm. He's mobile. You look at Will Levis's rushing numbers in college, very Justin Herbert-esque. And you talk about a cannon of an arm, I don't think there's any quarterback in college football that's eligible in 2023 that has the arm strength, the arm talent of Will Levis out of Kentucky. So it's just shaping up to be a very good class in 2023. And we always say next year's class is better than this year's class. But JSN, CJ Stroud, Ohio State, these wide receivers are talented. They're good. I see Joe Sanchez talking about, my girl Joe talking about, I remember an interview with Olave, Wilson, and JSN where they all said JSN was the most talented. And I believe that's true. I think that Chris Olave was the third best prospect on Ohio State's team, and a lot of people don't like to hear that. I'm not saying Chris Olave is going to be a bust at the next level. I said he reminds me of like a poor man's Emmanuel Sanders, a fantastic route runner. He's good tracking the ball. I'm seeing people say he's wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 in the 2022 class. I don't see that from Chris Olave. When I watch Jaxon Smith-Njigba, when I watch Garrett Wilson, those two look like special players at the NFL level. And right now, there's a lot of people saying that Ja'Marr Chase, that Jaxon Smith-Njigba is giving off Ja'Marr Chase vibes. Not sure if I want to go that far quite yet, but I think he's building a case to be that level of prospect in 2023. But overall, bowl season we're going to get a lot more clarity on these 2022 prospects as we move forward. We'll be back tomorrow. We're going to be talking about, what are we talking about tomorrow, Jay? What the hell are we doing tomorrow? What's tomorrow's show?
Tomorrow we're doing the fantasy yearly rookie review. So we're talking Ja'Marr Chase, Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle, all the rookie running backs. Maybe we'll talk some Trey Sermon. We'll tell the people what they got to do with their Trey Sermon shares. We'll talk Elijah Mitchell, broke the rookie record for 49ers rushing yards. But yeah, man, I'm excited. JSN though,
he's a beast.
Stroud, Rose Bowl records galore.
Yeah, Rose Bowl is always fun. So there you go. Jay, the producer, said tomorrow we'll be looking at our rookie review from this season, who you need to be buying, what rookies you need to be dumping, where I was right, where I was wrong. Damn, Devonta Smith, wide receiver 1, was the wrong call, Jay. It is, and it was always Ja'Marr Chase. He's incredible, but we'll get into that tomorrow. We appreciate y'all tapping in. We're back, baby. Make sure you tell your friends, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We will be up live and at you tomorrow to talk about those rookies. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast, and we'll be back, man. We love y'all. We're glad to be back. Happy New Year. Make it great. We out of this thing. Peace.